Welcome to the MindZoom session today on compassion. And before we get started, I suggest that we just settle in, meaning we sit for a minute or so and just settle in, attend to our breathing, and then start our session. So sometimes to settle in before we speak, before we talk or think, is valuable because it allows us to attune to ourselves. And before we start our practice, I like to find out what is at this moment for you. What type of sensations or emotions or thoughts or ideas are truly in the fore at the moment for you. So I might get started, and we start with the phrase, there is. For me, there is excitement. So you might choose to also share, if you like, in the chat box what really is there for you at the moment. And we start with this phrase, there is, and then you can fill in the blanks. Kelly, do you have something to share? No? your picture came up and that's so nice. So of course you can switch on your webcam as well if you like, so that we get to know you. I see here there are a few messages coming in. There's opportunity for self-care. And Joanne, that is very well said, because this is our session focus, compassion in particular. It's about self-care. We can give ourselves the gift of 30 minutes or so of just being with us, self-care, cultivating really a state of mindful compassion today. I like that too. There's a warm breeze outside. Beautiful. And whatever it is that came up for you, it's to appreciate it, to invite it in, and not to push things away. Now, there's a famous phrase that Rabbi Hillel said, and today is Passover, start of Passover. And this Rabbi Hillel is associated also with UF, if you know about it, because he was a rabbi here, and the center, the Hillel Center, is named after him. But he spoke really with a lot of clarity, and once he said, if I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? If not now, then when? So here it's about not also pushing things into the future. We can invite things in right here into our lives. And compassion is something that we can also cultivate and invite into our lives. It's the recognition of pain with the desire to relieve it. Because honestly speaking, we have all sometimes small pains or sometimes big pains. But here it's about also to approach whatever arises as something that we maybe not like or dislike or really, really suffer from, like the coronavirus crisis or being at home or many other things that we might miss at the moment, might be perceived as something that is painful. Whatever it is for you, it's different for all of us. Of course, we can also cultivate and work with compassion, in essence, also to practice it together, to amplify it, and to turn toward our compassionate part of ourselves. And I like to read very short section about compassion and loving kindness, which also a quite famous teacher had to say. And some of you possibly know him, Thich Nhat Hanh. He is very well known also in the mindfulness realm and has been an outstanding also teacher, spiritual teacher. So he writes about loving kindness, compassion, and joy that is really close to my heart, literally my heart today. And I start what he says about loving kindness, which is the first element of true love. It's the essence of loving kindness that is being able to offer happiness. You can be sunshine for another person. You can't offer happiness until you have it for yourself. So build a home inside by accepting yourself and learning to love and to heal yourself. Learn how to practice mindfulness in such a way that you can create moments of happiness and joy for your own nourishment. Then you have something to offer the other person. So here he talks about something that we cultivate first in ourselves before we can actually give it to somebody else in a very genuine, authentic way. And through mindfulness practice, we can cultivate also loving kindness, which we will also have a practice related to loving kindness. So he writes further about compassion. Compassion is the capacity to understand the suffering in oneself and in the other person. If you understand your own suffering, you can help him or her to understand suffering. Understanding suffering or pain brings compassion and relief. You can transform your own suffering and help transform the suffering of the other person, and the practice of mindfulness and looking deeply. So here Thich Nhat Hanh makes the point, what's different between compassion and loving kindness, because often they are also confused what they actually are. But really also compassion, it happens in this interpersonal space. So it's not something only that we hold or behold or that we feel, but truly it arises in relationship also with somebody or a whole community, something larger, something that that is also outside of us. But related to compassion is also joy. And here, joy, I think, is also a quite important element, because who does not want to have joy? And who does not want to feel joy or be happy? And Thich Nhat Hanh writes about it. It's about the capacity to offer joy. When you know how to generate joy, it nourishes you and nourishes the other person. Your presence is an offering like fresh air or spring flowers or the bright blue sky. Yes, such poetic ways to express really something that is quite difficult to describe. And it's springtime. And we can go occasionally outside to just also feel the warm sun on our skin. And just in that moment, as simple as it is, we might actually feel and experience what it means to be joyful, not to be distracted by thoughts or by distracting ideas or busyness or stress. So here it's about also joy is experienced in the moment. In a moment where we are not as distracted, right? Distracted by 100 other things that are going on in our lives. And this is also what mindfulness practice can bring to us. Joy, compassion, and loving kindness. Now, are there any questions or comments before we jump into an compassion mindfulness practice? So you can either type in and comment one question that you might have. All right. Oh, the name of the author and title. I will type this into the box. So his name is Thich Nhat Hanh, and I hope that I spelled it correctly. And this is out of the book that he published, How to Love. How to Love Mindfulness Essentials. So if you want to connect also with Thich Nhat Hanh, there are also web resources available, and on YouTube you also find some of his recordings. There was actually just a summit about Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching, because there are many also senior teachers that have been trained in mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. He is a Vietnamese monk who was caught up in the Vietnam War and fought for peace for the people of Vietnam, but also connected with Martin Luther King and others here in the US as a peace advocate. So he brought also mindfulness practice into the realm. Let's do something for world peace. Let's be peaceful people. And many of his senior teachers stepped up and continue also his teachings. He's still alive. I think he's 93 or 97 years old. So it's going strong. So he has left us a wealth of really excellent teachings, and in particular his poetic ways to express something that really only can be usually felt. That's really one of the outstanding capabilities of all his writings and teachings. So if you want to connect with him, please do so. So let us start our practice session for today. And in this practice, we will continue to use some of the practices that we already did in previous Mind Zoom sessions, meaning to work with our breath. So in breath and out breath. But in addition to this very simple mindfulness practice, we are invited to connect with a compassionate moment that we can remember. And this might be something very, very simple. This might be petting our cat or seeing our grandchildren and meeting them wholeheartedly. This might be a compassionate moment that we experienced at work or at home. It might be something that is very personal. And that's why I also cannot give you these instructions what to experience, because all of us had a compassionate moment in our lifetime. So we will start this practice and sit for about 10, 12 minutes, and then I will ring the bell, and then we will come back, right? So you can take a comfortable seat. Your palms are loosely on your thighs or in your lap. Your shoulders check in are also comfortable and loose so that you don't feel any tension. Your feet are on the ground and you sit comfortable and upright on your chair or cushion or yoga mat. You may close your eyes for this practice because it is a personal practice where we go inside and we connect to a compassionate moment that comes to mind. So invite this compassionate moment into your practice. And all you do is you breathe in and you gently breathe out. You breathe in and you gently breathe out. Continue on your own and connect with a compassionate moment you have experienced in your life. Let's continue this practice. So you can open your eyes, look around, see where you are at, sitting on a chair or cushion. And I like to hear what your experience was in this compassion practice. So this practice of compassion, the more we cultivate it, the easier it is. Also, we can connect to these moments of joy, of being and experiencing us as compassionate beings. And we can do this in mindfulness practice also intentionally, deliberately. And this is how it becomes a very powerful practice. So I see some of you sharing the experiences, and I certainly appreciate it that you really bring this to our group and allow us also to see how it was for you. See also in bodily and somatic response, felt tension leaving my back. And this is really a very good example for tension release happens when we completely relax and let go. Because that's when our body that holds sometimes tension just is able to release. So we can relax and experience also peacefulness, as I see here in some of the comments. So thank you to all of you. I wanted to share also one more thing with you. Thich Nhat Hanh has an whole village of practitioners in France where his main center is located, Plum Village. And in this center, they have in practice that during the day, every 15 minutes, 15, not 50, 15 minutes, there is a ringing bell in the village, and everybody stops when they hear the ringing bell, meaning in that moment, just for a few seconds, they just stop, connect, practice mindfulness and compassion, and then move on with their day-to-day routine. Now, you might say now, well, every 15 minutes, that is quite intense and it's too much for you. However, we can adapt this practice. We can also perhaps have a timer set, on your phone, like Insight Timer, or on your desktop, and have it ring maybe, I don't know, once or twice per day, reminding you, maybe with an Apple Watch, you can do it too. To just, in that brief moment, to come back to yourself and practice compassion and few mindful breaths. Now, when we do this quite often, it becomes really a whole stream in our life that we also are able to experience these type of joyful, mindful, and compassionate really feelings where we are also very relaxed and grounded with a lot of ease and continuity. And this is also the power of the practice. So if you want to think about to get your timer set of your choice. How often? I don't know, once a week or once per day. I invite you to engage in this practice inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh. Thank you so much for coming to this session, and we will meet again next week. Take good care.